individuals who look toward the future, willing to step up and say that change won't happen to me, but because of me. The explorers, the builders, the unsung heroes, the dreamers, those who boldly offer new solutions to old problems. Innovation is only possible because of the people behind it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Red Hat President and Chief Executive Officer, Jim Whitehurst.
Right. Good morning. I don't know about you all, I had a great day yesterday. It was really a blast. And I appreciate so many people being here so early this morning to join us for the kickoff for day 2 of the summit. At least when I went home last night, I saw a lot of people out at a lot of restaurants and other drinking facilities. So I appreciate so many people being here this morning. We have another great day planned. We have a lot of great speakers. We have a lot of great labs. So I hope that you get a chance to partake and enjoy. And then we're going to ultimately end this evening with a real baseball game at Fenway. Multiple people have said to me, is it a real game? It's like, yes, it's a real game. We're playing baseball. No, we're not pitching. They're going to be professional pitchers. But yes, it's a real game. So I hope you can all join us. For those of you who are less familiar with baseball, this really is one of the iconic stadiums to watch a baseball game in the world. And so hope you can join us tonight. We're expecting to have a great evening. We made a lot of announcements yesterday. We're really excited about those. And I wanted to pause this morning and back up and talk a little bit more about the theme of this year's summit, which is the impact of the individual. Last year, the theme was the power of participation, and we talked a lot about why it's so important that we have communities of participation to drive innovation. And one of the things we wanted to make sure that we talked about this year is the important role that individuals play in participation, because passive participation just doesn't get it done. It really takes individuals stepping up and trying new things. And I wanted to spend a few minutes talking to you about that, and then we have some great customers here who are going to talk in a little bit more detail about what they're doing to drive individual participation in communities that they're involved in. Let me start off talking a bit about why participation is so important and so powerful. In a world where innovation is becoming so important, we have to recognize the vast majority of innovation comes from groups of people working together. Yes, there are a few extraordinary individuals that by themselves can make a step forward, but the large, significant innovations that are fundamentally kind of human race changing type of innovations generally come from many people working together, whether that's in business and academia and research. It's people working together to create the mega changes. And if that's the case, how we organize to generate innovation matters a lot in terms of how much innovation we can actually generate. And I would observe, seeing a lot of companies out there that we have an opportunity to work with and have a chance to talk to, we organize for innovation. We organize our companies today in the same way they were organized 150 years ago when we were organizing to manage a factory floor. Basically, to sum it up simply, we have this plan, proscribe, and execute model where a very small group of people look into the future and say, okay, where do I think the world's going? What future state do I want to get to? Let me proscribe steps to kind of impact that, and then we'll execute against that. And we see that every day. Gantt charts, project plans, timelines, those are all manifestations of organizing to achieve a set goal. In some ways you say, well, that's obvious, that's how we do that. But if you back up and you think about where we are today and where the world's going, that type of process for organizing works fine in a static, stable environment where we have a really good sense of what the future might be, and therefore we can plan for how we want to impact that future. But as the world begins to move faster and becomes more ambiguous, our ability to predict the future is becoming less and less. And in fact, I'll argue that the human mind is actually not very good at predicting the future. In fact, it's not only not good at it, we are bad at it. There are over 20 separate identified cognitive biases that cause us to be really lousy predictors of the future. One of my favorites is the physicist Albert Bartlett once said, the greatest shortcoming of the human race is our inability to understand the objective function. Behind you, you're seeing quotes of some of the more famous kind of bad predictions about the future. And these are predictions in the 20th century when I would argue the world was moving pretty slow. Back to the exponential function, things are moving so much faster now. And I would articulate the problem that I hear from our customers in these terms. So I hear over and over and over again CEOs, CIOs, talking about, I'm worried about being Uberized. I'm worried about being more agile. I'm worried about digital disruption and digital transformation. All of those are basically articulations of saying the world is moving faster than it's ever moved before. I don't know exactly what's going to happen next week, next month, next year. And so I need help in figuring out a new way to address this set of problems. I was talking to the CEO of one of the big 3 automakers in the US, and he was saying, hey, Uber, with a couple $100 million of R&D, is completely disrupting my industry. How do I organize for that? The problem is the strengths of most large organizations is they're really, really good at strategic planning and prescribing action steps and executing against it. But the problem is pedaling faster, spending more time planning more to try to understand the future when the future is becoming less and less knowable isn't the answer. Just in short, the world is moving too quickly. Now plans are outdated before they're even complete. So I'm here to argue that planning as we know it is dead, right? Planning harder in a less known environment just isn't the answer. It's too fraught with errors, it's too limited in perspective to be effective in the world that we live in today. So what replaces it? Red Hat's had an opportunity to work in open source communities for over 20 years now. And we've not only been an active participant and contributor to the code, but we've been an active participant and observer of a different way to organize to get things done. And it's an organization system much more built in building a context, and building a context in which individuals have the opportunity to decide next steps. And what you see that emerges out of that is this try, learn, modify system. In open source, we'll often say, release early, release often, right? You don't fix bugs, you fix it in the next release. All that's part of a system to say, rather than proscribe activities and kind of figure out where the future is, you create the context for individuals to try things, learn from those things, and quickly modify and fix problems and just move forward at a different pace. Now, for those of you involved in DevOps, you'll nod and say, yeah, isn't that what DevOps is? And yes, that's a big principle around DevOps, is this idea of make it really easy to try things and make it really easy to recover when there are mistakes. And if you've read the book, Lean Startup, it's another example of that, saying rather than plan so much, just get something out there. Or the concept of the minimum viable product is another kind of basically manifestation of this thing. Rather than trying to figure something out, get out, learn, modify, and change. And I'll argue organizations who figure out how to do this, not just in their technology stack, but organizations that figure out how to do this at size and at scale, organizations that figure out how to create a context that allow individuals to act, in a collective way that can learn and continue to march forward are the organizations that will be successful in the 21st century. This has always been somewhat true, and I think we've always wanted to assume that there was more order in the world than there really is. And in fact, for those of you who've been at prior summits, you know I'm a history buff, and it's kind of become my thing that I always have a bit of a history lesson as part of my summit keynote, which I know is odd for a technology company. So, this year I got a cool one. It's about motorcycles. I'm going to take us back to the early 1970s in the UK. Now, by the early 1970s, the British motorcycle manufacturing industry was in rapid decline. If you look at a market like the US, the largest motorcycle market in the world, British motorcycle manufacturers had gone from having the majority share as late as 1959 to having less than 10% share by 1973. Literally a collapse over 15 years from majority to single-digit share. At that same time, Honda had entered the US motorcycle market and gone from 0 to having the majority share of the US motorcycle market. And the British government wanted to know why. So they hired, actually my ex-employer, the Boston Consulting Group, to do a study to say, how was this possible? How did this happen? I love this story because I was at BCG, but this is a classic screw up. So BCG studied the market, and they came back with the project and basically said, so here's what happened. Honda had a huge domestic market for small motorcycles. So they entered the US market using the economies of scale of these small motorcycles, and they're able to quickly take share and grow the market. And using these economies of scale and low prices, they were able to build a base and then take share so quickly they were able to kind of continue to go and take market, again, leveraging kind of a low cost structure that they've gotten from just all this scale. In short, they described a brilliant strategy that was flawlessly executed. And because this was done by the British government, this is a public document. So it's a great read to go back and read this. Here's the problem. That's not what happened. As it turned out, what really happened, and this came out later on, Honda did want to enter the US motorcycle market, and they had built a detailed plan for how to do it. And that plan was that US motorcycle riders like bigger motorcycles. And so they developed big motorcycles specifically for the US market. The problem was that wasn't their core competence. And so they entered the market with undifferentiated motorcycles relative to the British manufacturers, and they had a bunch of reliability issues because they weren't used to making big motorcycles that were driving such far distances. They were way off their plan. The numbers were nowhere close to where they thought that they were going to be. And then, like any wonderfully laid out strategy, luck happened. The Japanese reps who had come to the US had brought their little motorcycles from the domestic market to the US to ride for their own personal use. These would later be known as Super Cubs, and for motorcycle fans, you'll know that is like the best-selling motorcycle ever. One day, a buyer from Sears saw them at a trade show with these little motorcycles and said, I want to buy those, and I want to sell them in Sears stores. Now, the story almost ended there because that was not part of the plan, and those reps could have just as easily said, that's not part of the plan, I'm not going to do it. But instead, they were so far off plan, they said, hey, okay, we'll give this a shot. Immediately, these small motorcycles exploded. They exploded not only to take share, but they dramatically expanded the market for motorcycles in the US. Honda actually had a very famous, iconic ad campaign. You'd see the nicest people on a Honda, right? All of a sudden, it went from a small kind of clique of kind of biker dudes to this kind of massive kind of mass market that dramatically expanded the market. And in the end, the entire motorcycle market looked fundamentally different, massive, massive shifts, really because of the actions of two individuals, both going off script, both walking away from the plan, right? Somebody from Sears, who I guarantee you it wasn't in their plan to create a new market for small motorcycles, and someone from Honda who decided, okay, we're going to go off plan here because we're so far off plan, let's try something new. I tell this story and the role that BCG played in it because I think it's a great illustration of how badly we want to assume that there is order in the chaotic world that we live, to the point that we will infer order and brilliant strategy when none really existed. If we look back over time, this was in the 20th century, right, when things were moving relatively slowly, right? And as we think about going forward, I think we have to recognize that in a chaotic world that we live in, we can't assume that we can predict the future. We can't overprescribe order. And we've known this for a while. I think one of my favorite quotes is from Karl von Clausewitz. So this is going a little further back in time. The famous Prussian field marshal who once said, "No battle survives first contact with the enemy." Or said a little more viscerally, Mike Tyson, who said not that long ago, "Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth." In the world we live in today, it's definitely moving too quickly. The exponential function, because of technology, is exploding all around us. So much of innovation is emerging versus being planned. When you think about megatrends like big data, nobody laid out a 10-year roadmap that proscribes how big data has unfolded. That is thousands of developers at hundreds of companies, each making incremental small steps forward to enable their businesses that in some have created this whole new massive market. We're seeing the same thing happening in AI. Yes, there are a few visionaries, but there are thousands of little tiny incremental changes. And that's really the coal face of innovation now. It is practitioners every single day making small incremental advances. I mean, realistically, we are all here today because of an email Linus Torvalds sent saying, "Hey, I'd like a help on this little hobby operating system that I'm working on." Who could have imagined the change that that would ultimately wrought? And so, if organizing to solve today's problems is about creating context for individual action, what's the role of now leaders in that, right? When I say that we can't plan for the future, I'm not saying that we don't need brilliant leaders to drive direction, but how we do it's different. It is about creating a context, right? So if individual action is the coal face of innovation, having leaders who allow for that becomes critical. If you're a people manager thinking hard about how do you create ways for your people to try new things, how do you create ways for people to take risks in a safe way? For Red Hat, we think a lot about communities and how we build large communities and ecosystems where people from all different perspectives, from academia to practitioners to vendors to partners, can all work together in context to build better technology. That's why I'm so excited to have some of our customers join us today. Two of these, Jalisco and British Columbia, are Innovation Award winners this year. If innovation is about creating context for individual action, then we have extraordinary examples of governments that are working to innovate in their communities. You know, we often think about innovation, we think about, Silicon Valley and individual companies that are results of innovation. But when you think about, well, how do you create context for individuals and small groups to come forward and make things happen? We have some phenomenal examples today where the public sector is playing a role in making that happen. I would actually somewhat argue, if you think about in the 20th century, building highways and bridges and railroads and ensuring kind of physical infrastructure was in place was an important role that government played in helping commerce, fostering commerce in the 20th century. Creating the context for innovation, I'll argue, is an incredibly important role that government needs to play in the 21st century. So, first, I'm going to ask someone from Jalisco to come and talk a little bit. We have an introductory video here in a second. Just a little bit on this. So the state of Jalisco in Mexico had several years ago a new governor who is well known for a passion around open government. And as part of that opening government, he asked about, all right, how do we get more citizens involved in driving innovation? So let's hear about what's happening in Jalisco, and you'll see a bit more here after the video.
Les puedo comentar que la finalidad fundamental del gobierno del estado es promover el bienestar de los jaliscienses y la innovación y la alta tecnología juegan un papel fundamental para lograr este objetivo.
Nuestros clientes finales, desde la parte interna, es todas las secretarías de Estado. La función que desempeña la dirección que encabezo es el brindar todas las facilidades en tecnologías de la información y comunicaciones para poder brindar un gobierno de calidad. Entonces el problema que teníamos era una alta demanda de servicios, con una alta petición de tiempo, una muy alta demanda de que podamos dar soluciones en tiempo, pero con menos recursos de los que anteriormente se tenían. El proyecto de modernización y automatización de aplicaciones en el gobierno del estado de Jalisco consistió en hacer un cambio de paradigma, ¿no? El gobierno del estado de Jalisco venía trabajando con plataforma en los últimos 15, 18 años, entonces buscamos un sentido de innovación abierta, en el cual Red Hat nos ayuda a acceder a una comunidad de colaboración y de co-creación, en la cual podamos acceder a más información de más calidad y probar más productos.
Las soluciones de Red Hat que se incluyen en este proyecto es Red Hat Virtualization, el JBoss Fuse, el JBoss IAP, el JBoss BPM, todo bajo un entorno de Red Hat Enterprise Linux.
Al incorporar nosotros las soluciones de Red Hat, nosotros pudimos dar un amplio catálogo de servicios a todos nuestros usuarios, no solamente del exterior, sino del interior. Hablo en temas transversales como la movilidad, como la seguridad pública, como la recaudación, como todo el proceso de gestión de compras, incluso temas ambientales. Todo esto nos permitió dar más servicios al interior de las secretarías con mayor confiabilidad, que se tradujo en más servicios para el ciudadano en menor tiempo.
Please welcome from the government of the state of Jalisco, Mexico, Director of Innovation and Digital Government, Alfonso Fonseca Garcia.
Buenos días. Hi, everyone. Thank you for this very warm welcome. I'm very happy to stay here in Boston with my friends of Red Hat. I have my red suit, my red jacket. Thank you. The most important driver for those of us who serve in the public sector is the satisfaction of our community members. We are committed to listening to each individual in our community while finding ways to provide them solutions, to provide them with the conditions to meet their goals. We want to find solutions for our 8 million citizens to be more productive, create more jobs, increase their income, improve their health, get a higher quality education, live in safer location, and in short, improve their quality of life. But we can do it alone. Our citizens can't wait for the government to build solutions. That's why our governor, Aristóteles Sandoval, proposed the idea that our government should be different. Our government should be an open government. And all is summarized in our motto, we all are the change. We've learned to tap the power of open source technology to empower our citizens to take an active role in improving and impacting their community. Jalisco is now the epicenter of innovation in Mexico, where we have become the symbol of modernity and a launching pad for innovation in Latin America. We're known as the Silicon Valley of Latin America. Today, in the state of Jalisco, you can find more than 600 high-technology companies and over 150 software and service businesses, where more than 9,000 entrepreneurs provide ideas, co-create, and contribute in 70 communities of innovations in topics such like open source, entrepreneurship, and disruptive technologies, among others. In order to support this ecosystem and to keep creating knowledge and talent, the state of Jalisco hosts 8 industrial parks and business incubators, 12 world-class universities, 3 technology universities, 13 technology institutions, and more than 626 training centers. We also joined to Mexico's national digital strategy, which was proposed by Enrique Peña Nieto, our president. This strategy has the mission to create a modern government closer to the people. In this case, and all this work, we have a website where the public can find out about everything the government does. Where does the revenue come from? What it's spent on? Also, the main plans governments, and all the programs that directly benefit the people and how they can access them. Some examples of the work that we have done include photo-based traffic infractions, improved tax collection, online payments of birth certificates, digital signature, payments of public register of property, and as well as other digital services that make interacting with the government easier, faster than ever. And this is for Red Hat, all the technology of Red Hat. We have also hosted multiple events, such as hackathons and public open data challenges. In these events, we've invited to young entrepreneurs from all over the country and encourage them to develop technology and new applications that make our government more efficient and at the same time help us to better find to the people needs and also growing the business. One example is an event called Campus Party, a world-class event. In this event, we see topics like Internet of Things, drones, robots, makers, and entrepreneurs. This event helped to set the context for individuals and companies to deliver innovation solutions that complement our national IT initiative. This is the era of open source. This is the era of open government. And both needs to collaborative work. And to conclude, I only want to say thank you to Red Hat, and especially their CEO, Jim Whitehurst, for this award for the state of Jalisco, which I proudly represent, and for the opportunity to share our experience in the wonderful world of open source technology. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Gotta love that jacket. Wow. I thought I was kicking it with the red shoes, but man, I love that. Thank you. I love that story about really getting, especially young people, involved in so many different ways in driving innovation and creating a context. Our next guest comes from a little further north in British Columbia, and you'll meet Peter here in a minute. They've actually done some amazing things about recognizing that the government doesn't have a monopoly on innovation. And by opening up and creating a vehicle, not only for developers to develop, but to get access to government data, which really is a community resource, amazing things can happen. So let's learn a little bit more about what's happening in British Columbia.
BC Developers Exchange is that idea of eliminating that wall that typically stands between us as a public sector, a large, complex enterprise class organization, and our own kind of vibrant tech entrepreneurs, startups, the people that really increasingly give rise to innovation.
Open source is really important to us on this innovation journey. It just makes it so much easier for us to get started on a project, access software that's already been developed, as well as make our software available to developers.
The feedback we're getting from people, especially the ones who have long suffered our old processes with the data center, is a huge sense of relief for them. Now, the months and months they would spend doing paperwork, getting approvals, doing firewall rules, getting servers configured, all of that stuff that used to take teams months just vanished. They can literally just open up the console and get going. We chose Red Hat for really the main reason we've had a solid partnership with them for many years. So we've been using RHEL in the data center for a long, long time. And so we used Red Hat OpenShift Container Platform as a stepping stone to the cloud. After talking to various governments through the OpenShift Commons community, we realized that we were a bit ahead of the curve. And by applying for this award, we could maybe shine a light for governments to be working in the open, creating open source, and leveraging open source technologies. It's about getting better software and working with people in a more natural way.
Please welcome, from the Government of British Columbia, co-founder and executive director of BC Developers Exchange, Peter Watkins.
Thanks, everyone. Good morning. Really glad to be here on such a fine sunny morning. Have the opportunity to tell you about some of the work we're doing in our corner of the world. So the BC Developers Exchange is about creating new, better ways for the government and tech entrepreneurs and developers to work together. We're looking really to do three things with this. One, we want to leverage the digital assets or digital resources of the government, kind of use it as a springboard for growth and opportunity with tech entrepreneurs and developers. Two, we want to speed up the rate of service improvement and innovation within the government. And three, we want to see that net out in better experiences for the citizens and the public that we serve. If you think about it, on the one side, we've got the government. In our case, the BC government. This is about 27,000 direct employees, 22 major departments. It's a $50 billion annual budget. We operate in healthcare, education, transportation, forestry, mining, energy, agriculture and farming, public safety, emergency management, and the list goes on and on. We're talking about thousands of systems, tens of thousands of services that reach out to millions of users. We really operate in or adjacent to global industries or global markets. On the other side, over here, and out in the room today, we've got tech entrepreneurs and developers, innovators. These are people that are looking for new markets, they're looking for opportunities, and they're looking for ways to grow. So that sets up the rationale for the Developers Exchange. Better ways of working together. And the strategy that we have for this is open. We're working through what kind of data that we have would have value if developers had access to it. What if we went further and had a platform of secure APIs that could support the two-way exchange of information and services? What if we got good at regularizing the open source release of complete working systems from the government, where all you'd have to do is clone a GitHub repo, run a shell script, and you're bootstrapped up and running with our stuff? And what if we could find a way to enable access to our backlogs of unmet needs and the opportunity set that's in the government, but we don't have the time to work on it? A small example, just to use to illustrate the kind of concept, we can draw out of our transportation sector, highways department. One of the things we do in these modern times is we actually run a network of highway cameras. Okay? Cameras on bridges, tunnels, mountain passes, intersections throughout our province. And it turns out these little cameras are quite popular. The website that hosts these cameras is regularly our most frequently visited website. We actually saw that developers were scraping the cameras off the website, and the cameras are showing up on the morning news and on the Weather Channel, these types of places. So we responded to that by formalizing and releasing a data set that makes it super easy to code against the camera endpoints. We also worked and released an open API for using an open standard for road event information called Open 511. And this will allow you to write code and figure out whether the road is open or closed or under maintenance or if there's been an accident, this type of thing. So those two things, cameras and an API for road events, that was enough that a local company was sponsored to, they saw an opportunity to enhance their corporate resume. And they did that by building a mobile app, the BC Highways app. It's in the app stores now. Super simple, right? It's not a complex app, right? Uses the geolocation capabilities of the phone, combined with the mapping capabilities, the camera, and the road events data, and it makes a nice way to browse around and figure out what's going on the BC Highway system. You know, that's not an earth-shattering example, but it kind of illustrates the kind of concept. So we're really excited about the possibilities and the potential of this model. You know, we really see ways that we can help sponsor growth and new opportunity for tech entrepreneurs and developers, improve the rate of change and service improvement within the government, and improve the experience for citizens in our province at the same time. For more examples and more information, you feel free to check us out, bcdevexchange.org. Or you could also just jump straight to github.com/bcgov, and you can check out our growing list of code repos. Thanks very much, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Peter. I love that story, both creating a place for developers as well as exposing data as a way to drive innovation. Thank you. Our next guest comes from Singapore and from GovTech. And I love this story. I actually met Mark, who you'll meet here in a minute, last year, and heard some of the things that they're doing there, not only to engage developers, but more broadly, the citizens in Singapore. And I don't want to steal his thunder. It's a great story in some of the things that they're doing that literally have had life-changing impact. So with that, let's see what's happening in Singapore.
Do you remember when our world felt bigger, when information was unrolling from the edge of our tongues and we needed to be asked so many questions to get the answers we wanted? Do you like daddy or mommy more? What are you studying? What do you want to be when you grow up? Some days we get more questions than we can answer, but most days we realize that these answers we're looking for are there for the taking. When building a world is inspired by a child's sense of wonder and you realize you have the power to engineer probabilities into possibilities. When making a transaction online is easier, more convenient, and secure. When our tomorrows become todays. When our ambitions can take flight at the flick of a switch while our feet stay planted. Because only when we drive through our discontent can we arrive at excellence. The excellence of new breakthroughs. The excellence of applied technologies. The excellence of intuitive experiences. Can you imagine sending your child off to school and not having to look back, just to be sure that everything is all right? Where nature's momentum is harnessed by engineering's efficiency. Where you have more than your 5 senses to help make sense of the world around you. Can you imagine living under a roof that knows what you need before you do? Now take a second. Picture life better than it is now. For you, for the ones you love, and everyone after. This is what we could strive for. Ready, set.
Please welcome the Government Technology Agency of Singapore's Director of Government Digital Services, Mark Lim.
Good morning, everybody. Really, thank you very much for inviting me here today and for your time to allow me to share a little bit of what my organization and myself is doing back in Singapore. So I'm from this organization called GovTech. We are actually part of the government. We report straight into the Prime Minister office. So, GovTech also look after this very important initiative called Smart Nation and the digital government. So just now you saw the videos. You have seen some of this cool high-tech stuff they're working on. These are real stuff that we're working on. Of course, we reenact them for the video, but these are really real technology we're working on. So we get to build cool stuff and play with emerging technology, but really for the sake of the people, the citizen. So contrary to a lot of people believe, I know this is a tech conference, but the truth of the matter is, for GovTech and for Smart Nation and digital government, technology is not our main objective at all. Okay? At all. The only thing we are interested in is the people. Okay? So because of this, GovTech focus a lot on leveraging technology in applied usage to, number one, improve the quality of life for our citizens. Number two, create new opportunities, be it new careers or new startups, again, for our citizens. And last but not least, number three, was actually to create a stronger community bond, a stronger social fabric. We think about it. Technology can bring people closer together and build a stronger and more resilient society. However, we are also very aware that government cannot do everything ourselves. I mean, the world is so big, everybody got great ideas. Why don't we collaborate? So with this, 3 years ago, GovTech started an innovation lab, or we call it an open innovation lab, called GovTech Hive. So at Hive, it's quite interesting. We started really small. There's only 7 of us. So you have a mixed group of people, from product manager to design thinkers, to software developers, agilists, and user experience designers. This is 3 years ago. We have great success over the last few years because we run it differently from the rest of the government. We run it like a startup. Okay? We hire people who are very passionate about using technology and building cool stuff to actually bring a new value to the people. So to cut a long story short, so 3 years later, we have grown from 7 to today almost 150 people. We have from an old office, we have shifted to a new office. We have 2 floors now. We have people from DevOps. We have our own application security. We also organize hackathon, and we also run open data and open source projects. We also have a group of people who is focusing on data science, and also another group of people specializing in geospatial technology, like 3D Virtual Singapore. But how does this really work? So obviously, GovTech don't have all the domains. We also don't have all the solutions. So what we do is, as an internal government open innovation center, we work with the government agency to seize out their problem using design thinking approach, helping them to understand and establish what are the problem statements. At the same time, we work with the tech community, the industry partners, and the citizens, bringing them together and having that in-house capability. Together, we will be able to innovate, think out of the box, use new thinking and new methods to try to solve challenges that Singapore is facing. So the last 3 years, we have great success, as I mentioned to you. I won't go into all the projects because I think I have not enough time. But Jim have requested that I share one particular example and one particular story with you. So this is quite an interesting project that we started. So a few years, about 1.5 years back, about 2 years back, we realized that a lot of people suffer from heart attack, cardiac arrest. And the survival rate is really low. People don't make it when they have a heart attack, unless they receive help as early as possible. The interesting thing about heart attack is it strikes you anytime, anywhere. And it doesn't matter whether you are male, female, you are old, you are young, you live a very healthy lifestyle, or you live a very terrible, unhealthy lifestyle. There is no real statistic to say that it will not happen to young people who seemingly very healthy. So over the years, we have few thousand people dying every year from heart attack. We wanted to solve this problem, and research has shown that the best way to solve this problem is when somebody have a heart attack, you should be able to do resuscitation as early as possible. Every second counts. Every second counts. The longer it takes to help them, the lower the chance of survival. But at the same time, we realize that resources is very tight. We cannot just go out there and buy more ambulance. We can't get paramedics trained overnight. And yet, the demand on that kind of emergency medical services is so crucial. So this project is quite interesting. We actually partner with a very important government agency called the Singapore Civil Defence Force, who who also provides the services of firefighting and emergency medical services. And they are the one who tell us that they would like to be able to save more lives. But this is the constraint that they face. So we brought in a lot of people. We brought in people from even citizens who are volunteers. So we discovered that there's a lot of people who are volunteers. They get themselves certified in CPR and also use AED. And we started to do all this discovery session. And we discovered something very interesting. While they are trained, they keep complaining that they never have a chance to use their skills. Why is that so? Because unless a person collapsed in front of them or somebody screamed for help and they heard it, they will never know. By the time when they hear the siren of the ambulance, it's a bit too late. We are trying to beat the ambulance here. We are trying to get help for this victim as soon as possible. So what we did was we decided to build a minimum viable product, like all innovation team does. We started to prototype it, and we built it. And we also discovered something. Research has shown again that AED, I assume everybody knows what is an AED, is more effective, okay, in saving a life than the manual CPR. If you use AED, the chance of survival is basically substantially much higher. So what we did was we realized that actually in Singapore, we have a national registry of all the location of the AED in the different commercial buildings and housing estates. The only problem is it's a static data, right? Table and rows. So what we did was we took that and we map it onto a map. And that can give us a quick overview of where are all the AEDs in Singapore. So what happened was I saw some of my teammates, and they were working very hard, the folks that were working on this app. They were working very hard, and they were not even going home, long hours. So I was quite worried. I thought something wrong with the app, or there was a big bug, or some issues that they're trying to fix. So as any good leaders, it's our job to talk to our people, right, to find out what's wrong so we can help them. So I sat them down and I asked them what happened. I said, is it something that you need to fix? Is it a big bug? Is it a problem? They said, no, Mark, there isn't a bug. But they were reluctant to tell me why they were working so hard. So I had to force them to tell me. So I keep coaxing them and asking them to tell me what happened. Finally, one of them spoke up. You know what she said? And this is the product manager, a lead developer. She said that we're working hard because we're trying to make the app better and more accurate so that it can save more lives. So I'm very touched by what they said. I couldn't hold myself back when I heard they said this. So in GovTech and the Singapore Public Service, these are the type of people I get to work with every day. These are the type of people who have a tech skill to join any tech company, but they chose to join the Singapore government because they believe in what we are doing. So today, I share quite a little bit. I appreciate your time very much. So if you cannot remember anything that I've shared, I hope you can just remember one item, which is every life is precious, and every second counts. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. What a great story. If you ever need an example of the power of active participation, not just for developers, but citizens more broadly, literally when we say life-changing impact, we mean life-changing impact that active participation can have. For those of you who've been at summits before, you know I typically start the summit by talking about our mission statement, which is to be the catalyst in communities of customers, contributors, and partners building technology, better technology the open source way. And I typically start off because I want to welcome everyone and talk about the fact that you're all mentioned in that, customers, contributors, and partners. I have it here now because I actually want to bring up the end of the mission statement here. We didn't say creating better open source technology. We said technology the open source way. And we intentionally wrote this 9 years ago to say open source way because we've always recognized that open source is more than a license. It's actually a way of operating. It's about culture. It's around process as well. And so one of the things that is open source has become more prevalent and kind of more widespread generally with enterprises and other institutions. We're asked more and more, hey, can you share how you operate? Yeah, I get the technology, I'm excited about the technology, but we want to talk about culture. We want to talk about how you get things done. How can you share that with us? And so we went back and we spent quite a bit of time. We talked to a lot of our customers who we work closely with to figure out how can we develop a way that we could share more broadly, again, not just technology, but culture and process that really goes into the open source way. And so I'm thrilled about what we've been able to pull together. And I have John Alessio, who is our Vice President of Global Professional Services here, to talk us through exactly what we're doing. So, John, if you could join us on stage.
Please welcome Red Hat Vice President of Global Services, John Alessio.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to be here today. When I think of empowering our customers to make impact, I think of how we can help them connect the technology with their business processes, with their opportunities, with the challenges that they face. And so one of the things that we did was work with many of our clients to come up with a services offering to help do just that. We worked with our Strategic Advisory Board, which is a panel of about 15 CIOs, and we worked with them on how we could help create a more experiential approach to helping them create software the Red Hat way, as Jim said. What they told us was, yes, we need to be taught more about the technology, but we want to learn more about how to create software the Red Hat way. You all have experience in working with upstream communities. You all have experience in the area of ideation. How do we bring that into a prescriptive concept so that we can help use it to infuse that approach inside our organization? And so the team worked together. We came up with an approach. We made about a dozen customer visits to validate the approach, brought it back to that same strategic advisory board, and last year at OpenStack Summit in Austin, we launched what is now called the Red Hat Open Innovation Lab. So what is it? It's a 4 to 12 week residency, and the key point here is we're trying to get very, very quick time to value. So before we even begin the engagement, we start with really understanding the customer business issue, challenge, or opportunity that the client has. We then work with them on the individuals who are going to participate with us in the residency. We may do some skills building prior to the engagement, because the whole idea is when you come in day one, we're going to be working on ideation, we're going to be working on developing code, we're going to be working on solving your problem day one, not building infrastructure. And so we've built a whole push-button infrastructure behind the scenes. You heard a bit about that in yesterday's keynote from Optum on how we worked with them to leverage that push-button infrastructure for a quick time to value. But as we bring them in, day one, we begin working on solving that particular business problem. We do it in a very transparent, open way. Of course, the ideas, we are trying to empower the individual to leverage their ideas and quickly solve whatever business challenge or opportunity that they have. These laboratories, we bring in the individuals, which can be done inside a Red Hat facility. It can be done at a customer facility or at a third-party facility, and quite frankly, we've actually done all three of those combinations over the course of the last year. But I think the best way to really understand how we can make the power of very quick time to value is to really look at a specific customer case study. And so we have a client in Europe. They are a startup in Switzerland called Easier AG. They used their Innovation Lab engagement to springboard their ideas and jumpstart their new business model. Let's take a look at a video to get a bit of perspective on Easier AG.
Easier is a startup which develops digital products, innovations and technology for healthcare systems.
I was fascinated by the concept, and I started searching for the possibility to get in contact in order to get for us an innovation lab.
Open Innovation Labs is a new way of Red Hat engaging with our customers, taking Red Hat's software development DNA, open source culture and way of working, and transferring that to our customers in a very intensive residential environment.
Red Hat has a strong container technology and a strong technological stack that is actually fundamental for the healthcare industry. And that's why we chose a provider of services that could help us getting our innovative products run in the real world.
My name is Brian Gallagher and I'm a senior consultant with Red Hat Mobile. What was unique for me in this engagement was the idea of pair programming with the customer's developers in order to rapidly exchange knowledge on Red Hat products. Having all the stakeholders for the project in the same room over a number of days, particularly the customer, really helped to accelerate the software development process.
The Innovation Lab is very exciting for me. It's so great to see my idea coming to life so quickly, and I would have thought working with all the technical guys would be very hard for me and too abstract, but I really am enjoying it and looking forward to the next day, because I really think we've made something big altogether.
So to talk about how they've made something big, please give a very warm Red Hat welcome to two of our three co-founders of Easier AG, Dr. Dorothy Straub and Dr. Andre Baumgart.
Thank you.
All right, come on out. The team is excited to hear about the Easier AG story. So welcome, Dorothy, and welcome, Andre. And maybe Dorothy, we can start with you to talk a little bit about what was your inspiration for creating Easier AG?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for having us. My job is managing an emergency room then in Switzerland, and I was annoyed by the waiting times our patients had, and I thought maybe I could do better. If I'm able to make reservations for a cinema or for the hairdresser on my phone, I should be able to do the same for a physician appointment, even in emergency. And when I shared my idea with my partners, Andre and Kai, which he couldn't be here, unfortunately, they thought it was something worth to pursue.
Yep. So I think it's great, because as I was telling you backstage, I just went through this exact situation with my brother-in-law 2 weeks ago into an emergency room, and you're exactly right on. From a customer point of view, probably could be better, right?
Yeah.
So, so Andre, what gave you the idea to work on this opportunity with Red Hat?
Well, we struggle to find a partner in Europe. Essentially, when you talk to software companies, they really grab your idea, and you don't know where this is flowing. And then I saw the announcement last year on the Open Innovation Labs, and I was so excited because I knew Red Hat for several years in the open source community, and I worked with them at the university. So I began emailing Red Hat about the Innovation Lab, and we got in contact, and that was really perfect for us.
Good. So how did the journey progress from there? What happened next?
Well, it is the Open Innovation Lab, as you might experience it and as you might read about it, is a holistic approach to innovation. That means it meets culture, it meets people, it meets processes, it meets product, and then at the very end, it's technology. It does not start with the technology. So we were meeting the Red Hat people from the EMEA team, which were really great. We made a discovery session in Zurich. This was half a day, and they were challenging our business model. They were challenging our idea. They were challenging us as people, as we could really do this, not just looking at the technological side, right? And then we headed off figuring out a contract, how we do the planning for the Open Innovation Lab. And then we planned at the beginning of March, 1st of March, we started getting together at the Innovation Lab in Ireland, Waterford, where we met the people from Red Hat, I think 12, 15 people, and a few people from us, so we were gathering there and had really a nice experience.
Yep. So one thing I'll highlight there is, Andre talked a bit about something we call discovery sessions. That discovery session is really a key approach, methodology that we have within Red Hat Services to really uncover the business problem, the business processes, the why of what you're doing, and really come back to you with how we're going to do the how and the what.
Right.
So in the video, what was great, Dorothy and Andre, we see you very interactive with the technical team. So as a medical professional, you're an MD, Dorothy,
Yeah.
Talk a bit about your experience in the Open Innovation Lab.
At first I thought, wow, that's going to be fun. Me, which I'm not a really tech person, as you might have guessed, together with all those tech guys, 3 days in Ireland, which I've never been. But I must say it was quite a lot of fun, a lot of work too. I was exhausted in the evenings, but after only a few moments together with the team of Red Hat and our own developers, I could see that my idea, which I had in my mind for so long, was really getting a body, a shape, and I loved it. And when we left Ireland, I really think we did something great, what we accomplished together. And we wanted to thank Red Hat and the Open Innovation Lab for that, because that was really a chance for us and our developers to do that.
Yeah, and what I really love about this story is how you've been working on this idea for some time, and really it brought it to life in a relatively, what I think, relatively quick time. But Andre, let's talk a bit about where do things stand now with the product?
Right. I mean, the idea is 3-4 years old,
yeah.
So you can imagine how long we searched for that. And then we got finally to Ireland, and we thought about having really a small piece developed there and really create something that we all call MVP, right, a minimal viable product. And originally we had the sense of getting something really small, but through these interactions there, we created something bigger, and the team worked together to really make this. And they did not just produce one app for the iPhone or one single app. They built essentially 2 apps, one for the hospital and one for the patients. And they really made it within 2 to 4 weeks, which is exceptional, I would think. So if you do an innovation lab, do not expect that in this short period of time.
Yep. So let's take a look at where the application stands. You can give the team a feel for what you were able to accomplish.
Right. Okay. So, wait, I do that. Okay. So you heard about what is the use case behind the easier Smart ER app. And when you need, we give you a short glimpse about what is going to happen there. If you need more information, you can go to our website, emergency.care, where we will find all the necessary information required. So if you have an application on your iPhone, what do you do and why do you need it? I mean, have you ever had a health problem? I mean, when you develop, here are a lot of developers, late at night, you wake up, have a big back pain, and do you know where to go to in an urgent care sense, here in Boston or wherever you live? This is the one side. So you want to find quickly access to medical care, and normally you do that in an urgent or emergency care setting. So when you start up the application, you will find something like a first symptoms check. That is, you have not a life-threatening condition. That is very important. Otherwise, you should directly call your local emergency numbers. So if you have no symptoms, you can go to the dashboard and you will find, hopefully, no open cases. Otherwise, you would hopefully not be sick, right? You have also the facilities listed in your location, and we present here the most important, this is a biased selection, I would say, of Boston clinics here around that. So what can you do then? If you have a health problem, you can go to the symptoms check. It's a very easy way to say, okay, what kind of, yeah, Red Hat is posting us more things. So we have a back problem, and this back problem can be shortly described by the symptoms, the severity of pain, and maybe you had an accident, but hopefully not a major one. So it's maximum a minor accident you could have. You can save that. So it's saved. You can go back, and you will see that it is listed here and checked. When you go next, you can select your facilities. So you can first have a look on these facilities, where they are, but simply for the reason of time, we choose here the middle one and go next, so I can check in there. And what you need, of course, is your profile. And you cannot just submit your own profile as you use the app. You can submit it, for example, for my wife, who is hopefully healthy at the moment, so she doesn't require it, and then can simply check that into our system and submit that case. But you have to really agree to that, because you share your data with the medical facility there. And then within a short period of time, you will see now, you have seen it, my name appears on the side of the hospital. So within that, now I take over to the emergency department. Dorothy, please.
Right, where I or the nurse will take over. And if I push view, you'll see his profile. And I can create an estimated appointment time when he will be looked after. Let's say, for example, make tonight at 2 o'clock, like that. That would be his appointment time. I'll just make then update it, and
you see the update here. The case is updated.
Right. If I go back, I can put my patient from new patient simply to scheduled, and can wait for him.
Right, so you're checked in now, and you don't have to go there, you can wait at home. This has two benefits: waiting at home and connected to the ER. You can ultimately call them at any time possible, and you do not fill up the resources and the waiting areas in the emergency rooms. So the emergency room can perfectly schedule all the cases that are not deadly sick. So this is the very, very important theme here.
And if there's coming any emergency which can delay your appointment, simply the nurse, the system gives you back a message on your iPhone or your iPad, whatever you're using, telling you your appointment will be delayed, and that's done too.
So you can see now the appointment time here, which reminds you at a certain point before that you can go there, and then when you're at a time, you can simply navigate to your hospital in your region, and you will be displayed with a navigation to there. So it helps you to access this ER in non-life-threatening cases. And I hope we could show you and present you that this is a beneficial case for you as a potential patient, which hopefully never would use our app, and for the emergency care setting. So thank you so much to the Red Hat mobile team in Ireland, to the EMEA team of the Open Innovation Labs, and our developers who really made a great experience during that Open Innovation Lab of Red Hat. Thank you so much.
Great. Let's give Dorothy and Andre a round of applause.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I was telling Dorothy I had this exact situation with my brother-in-law 2 weeks ago, and he was fighting with my wife, which is a losing battle because she's an RN, about going to the ER when he had an issue, and he didn't want us to be waiting in the ER for a long period of time. Something like this would have really been quite helpful. So let me leave you with a couple key thoughts. First, The concept and the capability that we have built with Open Innovation Labs can be used with organizations of any size. As you can see with Dorothy and Andre and the Easier AG startup, it was used in the healthcare industry with the startup idea. So really from ideation to some initial capability. We've also had this type of engagement work very, very effectively with a large retailer here in the US who is looking to create a better capability around Black Friday so that they can scale their infrastructure, and we use the Innovation Lab as a great way to kick off their ideas and be able to put some great capability in place in a short period of time. Secondly, it's a transformative experience. As you can see, we're trying to unleash the power of the individual to leverage technology to solve real-world business problems. We're opening 2 new innovation labs here in Boston in just a few short weeks, and in London, England, 2 weeks out. So we'll have capability in Europe and here in North America in Boston, as well as in Mountain View, as well as in the future in Asia Pac. It will have a site that will be hubbed out of the Singapore region. Additionally, if you have questions for Dorothy and Andre, they'll be participating in a session with Jason Smith from the North America team, who will host that session for us, and you can ask them some additional questions. I'd like to thank you very much, and let me bring back out Jim Whitehurst.
All right. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
I just love the innovation labs because you can actually see literally in a few weeks to see ideas come to life, which is truly phenomenal. Part of creating the context for people to innovate and allow for individual action is ensuring that we provide the best possible experience and tooling and innovation and expose that to developers on our platforms. And so I'm really excited about the announcement we made yesterday with Amazon Web Services, which does a number of things, making it easier and more effective to run Red Hat technologies on AWS, and importantly, ensuring that we can expose the thousands of services that AWS has developed to developers on OpenShift, wherever you're running OpenShift. Andy Jassy, CEO of Amazon Web Services, couldn't be here today, but he's recorded a video to give you his perspective on this partnership. And then afterwards, we're going to do a demo to see the power of it live right here. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim, and hello, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be with you all today, but I'm really excited about some news to share. You know, just for context, AWS and Red Hat have been strategic partners for almost a decade now, working since 2008 to make the experience of running RHEL on AWS great, whether you're talking about SAP applications or Oracle DBs or all kinds of big data and analytics applications. Really, any bespoke on-premises application is easily able to run RHEL on top of AWS. But over the last year or so, our joint customers have been asking us to solve a couple problems for them. First, with the pace of AWS continuing to accelerate in terms of the innovation, just last year alone, we launched over 1,000 significant services and features in AWS. Our customers want to be able to enjoy all of that innovation and use RHEL. And so we've spent the last couple months together, Red Hat and AWS, figuring out how to resource our collective efforts so that you'll be able to enjoy that innovation that AWS is providing faster than ever. The second thing is, as more and more enterprises are evaluating running in containers, we're excited to announce a strategic alliance between AWS and Red Hat that will provide a unique offering where Red Hat will package natively a large number of AWS services into OpenShift. And so these AWS service brokers will come prepackaged into OpenShift, and they'll allow access to services like Lambda, all of our data services like our relational database service, including Aurora, our data warehouse service in Redshift, EMR, Athena, our CDN and CloudFront, our DNS service in Route 53, our load balancing service in ELB. All those services will be accessible natively in OpenShift. It'll also allow application developers who are using OpenShift to move much more quickly because you'll have that consistent environment between on-premises and the cloud. And then we'll also provide a single path for support where both Red Hat and AWS will provide support such that you can deploy your applications in production with confidence. I'm really excited about the extended strategic alliance. I think it's great for customers. And as a customer, whether you intend to go all in the cloud in AWS or operate in hybrid environments, AWS and Red Hat will partner together to make the experience as seamless as possible for you to use the OS and the application development platform you're used to using on premises in the cloud as well. Thank you very much, and back to you, Jim.
Please welcome AWS Director of Solutions Architecture, Matt-Jan Chisholm, and Red Hat OpenShift Ecosystem Technical Director, Chris Morgan.
Wow, we just heard Andy Jassy and Jim Whitehurst talk about that Red Hat and Amazon are going to work closer together around making RHEL and OpenShift better. And he also talked about something that we want to show you today called service brokers. Now, what we also want to do this is actually show you a live demo. You know, nothing, no magic here or anything like that. And to help us do this, I'd also like to introduce Steve Pusti, who's our lead OpenShift evangelist. Now, I'm fortunate enough to, in my 9 years at Red Hat, to have spent 7 of those years actually working with Amazon as part of the partnership. And I got to say, I'm super excited about the things we're doing. And Matt, kind of with that, you know, what are you excited about? Could you share with the folks here?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So I feel really privileged to lead a global team of solutions architects at AWS. And really every day we hear from customers about how they want the capabilities and the stability of Red Hat solutions and how they want to use them in the cloud. And so I'm really excited about the announcement that we made about the tight integration of our product development and release cycles around Red Hat Enterprise Linux. I've been with AWS, though, about 5 years, and what I find really interesting is how we've seen the shift to containers. You know, customers want to use containers to deploy their applications to the cloud. We're also hearing from a lot of customers that they want easier ways to deploy hybrid workloads. And so it's really for those 2 reasons that I'm particularly excited about what we've announced between AWS and OpenShift.
You know, no question, and we hear it ourselves. In fact, for me, the most exciting thing is this isn't something we just decided to do as 2 companies. It's the customer-driven aspect that's driving this that is really a key part of what we're doing. But you know, kind of maybe enough of us talking. Steve, is the demo ready?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on stage, it is my privilege to share with you all the new OpenShift services interface with native AWS integration. Now, as we've evolved over the last several years with OpenShift, we've come to understand more about what customers want to do when they want to create their actual applications. They want to get to work immediately, creating their projects and going straight to the services that they want to use. And this includes also adding their own Amazon Web Services to their project. Now, as you'll notice, this new interface is actually empowering the developer to get to work immediately. Much like we saw yesterday with OpenShift I/O with its onboarding capabilities, we're doing the same thing within the core platform itself with this new services interface. Now, Steve and team have created a sample Python application that's going to show us where the North America attendees reside next to the major airports based on zip code. Now, apologies to the other 69 countries in attendance, but Jim and Andy didn't actually give us a lot of time to get a demo up for you. But what I want you to really notice is the simplicity, right? Steve was able to select Python, give it an app name, and then actually point to the source code that he wanted to put into this particular container. Now, we also want to do this with a stateful application. So we're going to need a database. Now, under normal circumstances, we would deploy that database as a service within OpenShift. But since my buddy Matt came all the way here to actually present with us, we decided that we would actually deploy an AWS RDS database in order to handle this. But it looks like our build's finished. Let's take a look at the application first.
There we go. So Steve, it's great that we deployed an application with OpenShift. I love the map, but there's something missing. And we were talking about the database. Could we add some data to this map?
Well, yeah. I mean, Steve, would you mind maybe fixing it and actually getting us an RDS database for this?
OK, great. So looks like what Steve is doing now is actually provisioning an AWS service the same way that he provisioned the native Python application that we saw before.
Yeah, I mean, he really is. I mean, one of the big things when we were working on this alliance and what we wanted to do is no matter where OpenShift is running, whether you're running it on your laptop, in your own data center, using one of our services, or running it yourself in a public cloud, if you can see Amazon Web Services from OpenShift, we expected you to be able to use Amazon Web Services with OpenShift. And you know, again, we want to prove to you that this is actually a live demo. And so, as you can see, Steve has actually gone to the Amazon RDS console. And we have a new RDS instance being created that we just provisioned within OpenShift. Now, for the sake of time, so you guys can get to your sessions today, we've already created a database that we're actually going to use to do the next step. And so, Steve, if we could go back to the OpenShift console.
So this is so cool. It's so exciting to see OpenShift provisioning AWS services. And
really cool.
You know, so now that we've had this database provisioned in AWS, how do you actually associate that Amazon RDS database with your application in OpenShift?
Well, so a key component of the service broker integration is this concept called binding. Now, all binding really is linking services together without having to have intimate knowledge of how that service you're linking works, if you're a developer. And so to do this, you know, you simply select the service, and then choose which application or other service that you want to bind to. And now, OpenShift will then automatically detect a configuration change and then redeploy and rebuild, if necessary, the actual affected services and make them available. In fact, it looks like we've done that now.
So it's really great to see Amazon RDS deployed with OpenShift, whether you're running OpenShift on AWS or OpenShift in a hybrid capacity. Yeah. You know, I'm excited also to use additional AWS services like Amazon Redshift, Amazon S3, AWS Lambda. I mean, we're really just getting started. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's no question. We're going to continue to add the number of services we have. And it looks like our application is available. So, Steve, do we actually have data now?
There we go.
All right.
That's very cool. So I'm based in New York City. Let's zoom in here and see how many attendees we have from where I come from.
It looks like a good mess of attendees we have
like
here in New York City. In fact, is that your place next to LaGuardia?
Pretty close.
You know, so true story. A lot of folks don't realize this. With my particular accent, it happens to me all the time. Folks feel like that I'm a native New Yorker. And honest to God, promise y'all. And they are so surprised to find out that I'm actually from right here in Boston.
All right, all right. Well, I'm shocked. And you know, people actually in New York are shocked to know that I'm actually from Toronto. So I just wanted to let those of you from Boston know that don't worry, I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm a Jays fan, so we're all good. But more importantly, Chris, it's so cool to see this native integration and to be able to deploy Amazon AWS services from within OpenShift. You know, it really makes me excited about what we can do together going forward.
Same here, Matt. You know, and thank you for being here with us, and Steve, thank you for driving it. You know, AWS has been a trusted platform for us to run OpenShift for several years. But what I hope you noticed today, and you even noticed yesterday when you start to look at our OpenShift I/O as part of this as well, is that as a developer, I was able to pull in a service for a relational database. And then that database is managed by Amazon, you know, for the high availability and other pieces, and we access that as if it was running within OpenShift itself in a very repeatable fashion. And we can do that from any OpenShift deployment that can actually see the Amazon Web Service. This is the incredible power we have of hybrid cloud. And so kind of with that, we thank y'all for joining us today, and please enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt, for joining us. Thank you, Chris. That is really, really cool. Plus, I love it when a demo comes together, especially when it's in my keynote. Look, just to wrap us up here today, I want to leave you with one last question. Active participation isn't easy. Individual action requires taking risk and trying new things. It's so much easier to be passive and keep your head down and do what you're told. But if that happens, innovation will happen around you, not because of you. And so I would encourage all of you, for the rest of the sessions today, for the rest of the summit, but in particular when you get home, think about how you can get involved, how you can take action, how you can inspire others to take action. And think really hard, what kind of ripples can you make? What impact will you make on the future of technology? Thank you very much. Really do appreciate you being here. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you tonight.